to Wimbledon tennis is attended by at least 40,000 people a day. It's one of the major sporting events in the world, you know, alongside the World Cup and Olympics. A £30 ground ticket for centre court for the first week would pass through the touts' hands at, say, nearly £1,000. Some of these tickets were stolen, some of them were forged. People who bought these tickets weren't guaranteed entry to the club.
A crucial thing is that touts don't respect the geographic boundary. They move freely between the tennis ground, which is on Merton Borough, and Southfield Tube Station, and the streets around, which are in Wandsworth.
Local residents, shopkeepers and employees of the club were intimidated by the touts. I had it on good authority that one tout earns £30,000 a week selling tickets at Wimbledon, and he's a small player. The legislation we had didn't really help us in regards to policing the touts effectively. You know, we'd move them on and they would come back 10 minutes later, and then their legal reps or solicitors who are employed specifically to come down would challenge police officers about their knowledge of the law. We were always lawful in our actions, but sometimes it could be intimidating when a solicitor's standing in front of you saying, "No, you're incorrect, officer," you know, and then put quite inaction sections at us. Well, we decided the best course of action was a dispersal zone. There was an initial hesitation in granting the dispersal zone because it never had been used. But when you actually look at the legislation, there's no reason why it couldn't be used for this event, as long as you have the figures and the evidence to back up your request.
Merton, we've used dispersal zones before to address problems, and I don't think Wandsworth had, or if they had, they hadn't had a very good experience.
The reaction from the Wandsworth side was one of scepticism, shall I say, because of previous experience with dispersal zones elsewhere. There had been issues over exit strategy and issues about resourcing enforcement.
So we had to sort of show, you know, the results of our dispersals that we'd had used before and how it could work for them.
It became obvious by talking and discussion with the officers and the members and the police colleagues. This was a very different case.
Prior to the event, I wrote to each and every known ticket tout who attended the event in the past to let them know of the legislation which was being brought in to deal with them, and I told them it was not in their interest to attend the event. Obviously, if they did decide to turn up, then they would be dealt with firmly but fairly. During the first week of the tennis, we found that a number of touts turned up with their legal representatives and to test the water, as it were. Our legislation and our powers were watertight, so their legal reps told them in no uncertain terms that it was not in their interest to apply their trade at the tennis this year. They weren't very happy. They made complaints to the local inspector, and they came down en masse to our police control point to try and intimidate again, but no, it didn't work on this occasion. The problem had been going on for years, and because of the legislation and a unique way of using that legislation, it was a success, and also primarily because we all worked together, and that will be the local authorities and the other partners who work at the tennis. We all worked together to achieve a common goal, and it showed that it worked.